It's right now. It's time for you. So please, I'm so grateful to have you here and turning the mic over to you. Kel Lash, this mic is all yours.
Thanks, Lynn. What a silly little funny morning it's been. I was like, I tried to get on Pal Talk. Apparently Carrie was talking, but I couldn't hear anything the whole time in that room. And then I locked my mic on there and I was trying to talk and I said a whole prayer, but I don't think anyone heard it. And I was just talking, but I don't think anybody heard. I just said a prayer. I wasn't going on and on, but I'm just amused by this whole thing. I'm glad that the technology has given me some amusement today and laughter rather than any frustration or irritation. I think that's a win. That's something to truly be grateful for. Yeah, I was sharing gratitude and thanks in my prayer today to for all challenges that we go through. So here I am. Let's take a breath and tune in. If anyone's listening, I hope that you found some patience and delight in that. Yeah, so let's take a breath here. I'm just going to say another prayer to retune myself in here to God's presence. So grateful and thankful to be delighted by challenges today, to have such a spontaneous morning already with different things, different ideas, different conversations, different things swirling around. And grateful and thankful to be tuning in now to the present moment with the Holy Spirit, to be tuning into our love, to be tuning into peace and joy, to be honoring any pain or grievances, any fears, any grief that we are experiencing right now or recently or in the past. To trust and know that we are willing, that we can be willing if we aren't willing, but that we can be willing or be willing to bring that pain to the Holy Spirit for transformation into healing, into forgiveness, into love, into gratitude, into peace, and to know if we're not in that state right now, that that is okay, that all is always okay, that all is well. Always to trust that we can trust our own decisions and to know that everything is for our good, that everything is working out for our good, that even if we think we made the wrong decision, to know that that was what was meant to be in the moment, that that experience was meant to serve us in some way for our healing, even if it was very challenging or very painful. I'm willing to trust this, to continue to trust this, and to expand my trust even bigger in the universe, expand my trust in myself more, to stop playing small, to open myself up to the limitlessness of my being, of my life, of my essence, to open myself up to abundance and peace and prosperity and freedom, the kind of peace that I cannot even possibly imagine with my human mind. To open myself up more and more to this so I can step in to what is real, what is true, and be free of this illusion that does not give me peace. Grateful to know this, to be in this presence with God today, with the two or more who are gathered in the name of love, in the name of healing and forgiveness, willing to trust in this process always, And so it is. Amen. So I was having a conversation this morning with my friend, and I think it's so adorable that my cat gets really excited when I do certain things, when I talk about certain things, when I'm feeling certain energy. Um, and I just to point that out. I know I've talked about my cats before, um, but I think it's so adorable how they feel our energy and how they don't need that verbal communication to know what's going on, to feel what's going on. They don't need to be able to communicate with us. They love us unconditionally without ever needing to understand what the heck we are saying. They don't need to know, because the words are not important. Our words are not important. It's the essence we bring, it's the energy, it's the love. The love in us says everything it needs to say. Love doesn't actually have words. Love just is. The I am presence just is. It simply is. It's plain and simple. And so this is what I think about sometimes when my cat gets really excited. So I recently took a trip to the East Coast to visit my family in New York and in Virginia. And it was a beautiful experience just seeing the delight and the innocence in all of these babies and toddlers and little kids that I spent 3 weeks around. I think I talked about this last week, how pure and how perfect and how beautiful they are. And yes, we as adults are also pure and perfect and beautiful and innocent. But these little kids are just so authentically themselves, and they just delight in everything. And I was on the plane ride home back to Portland, and I had this wonderful experience. So I always get a window seat, and whenever I can. And so I had a window seat, and I was boarding the plane, and I go to my seat, and I see that someone's taken my seat. So there's two children about 9 and 10 years old, and one is in my window seat. And I go to sit down, and it turns out they didn't speak English. It was this beautiful family. There was a mother, a father, a little baby, maybe 5-6 months old, and then 3 young children. And 2 of them were sitting in the row that I ended up sitting on. So I took the aisle seat. And there was a woman across the aisle from me that explained, yeah, one of them was in my seat too, but I said that was fine. They could sit together. And so she explained to me what's going on. I said, that's perfectly fine. And I turned to the dad and said, yeah, they can sit here. That's fine. I think he understood me. And so we took off a little while later, and I was just thinking, I would love to have a child take my window seat instead, because if there's anyone that's going to truly appreciate that window seat like I do, it's going to be a child, because I get the window seat because I love looking out the window on planes. It's my favorite thing about flying. I get so happy, so emotional. I feel like I'm flying through the heavens. I feel like I'm so connected with God. Often I'm crying almost on every flight at some point, just seeing the beauty out there, seeing the sunset or sunrise or the clouds, the sky, the earth below. I just think it's the most beautiful experience ever. And so I was like, yeah, I think these kids might appreciate this. I knew they would. And so we took off, and sure enough, when the plane was taking off into the air, these kids, I don't know if they've ever been on a plane before, but they actually, oh, Lynn says, I actually saw a rainbow that way. Amazing from a plane window. That's beautiful. I don't know if I've ever seen a rainbow from up in a plane. That sounds absolutely majestic. Yeah, it's so beautiful up there. And so we take off, and these kids were just so excited. I just like started just crying, watching that their excitement and joy, looking out the window, taking off on this plane. And they kept turning to me, they kept looking at me like, do you see this? Do you see this? Like, and I was like, yeah, yeah. And I was clapping. I think I gave them a high five or a fist bump. And they were just so excited. And it was just so glorious and so beautiful to see how excited they were and see the smiles on their face. And I had my mask on, but they could see my smile in my eyes. And yeah, it was just so wonderful. And I ended up having a really good time with them because we couldn't really understand each other. They understood some basic stuff. Like I started looking at photos on my phone at one point from my trip. And it was so cute because the girl next to me was really interested in looking at my photos. And I'm not a very private person in a lot of ways. And so I was like, yeah, you can look at my photos with me. So I'm flipping through my photos, and it's like photos of babies and toddlers, like all my nieces and nephews and cousins and parents and dogs and all these photos like that. And I'm explaining, I was like, that's my brother. And I was like, like this, that's your brother. And we were trying to communicate like that. And she knew some basic, like mother, father, brother, baby. We told each other our names. And so, but most of it was just like this beautiful nonverbal communication that we shared, where we just shared in this delight and this excitement and this childlike, that carefree childlike wonder and curiosity of the world. Like, she was genuinely interested in looking at photos of strangers. And these kids, they had nothing, like they didn't bring anything on the plane to occupy themselves. Like, they didn't have any snacks. They didn't bring like toys or games. They just, they had themselves, and they were entertaining themselves. And they were really sweet with each other, the brother and sister, and the baby was crying a lot throughout the plane ride. And the boy would, like rock him and hold him or carry him across the aisle. They give him back and forth between the mom and the dad. And it was just so sweet to see such love and just such wonder and excitement. And they're just really precious. And my whole trip was like that too, seeing all of my nieces and nephews and cousins just be pure balls of just scrumptious, beautiful joy and radiant love. And they just they think that you're just the funniest person ever. And they think that you're just perfect. The way that a baby looks at you, the way that a toddler wants to be with you all the time, it melted my heart. And they see us, they really do see us as perfect. And they have such a tremendous ability to see the truth and to forgive, just like my cats. Those are my children. And it just brings me such gratitude and joy to be seen for who I am. And there's also adults in my life that see me for who I am, and I'm so grateful for them as well. For friends and family that see me for who I am. And so I just want to share this message today that I guess is about seeing each other and ourselves for who we truly are and for who we can be when we are not showing up as those people. And are we willing to see ourselves and talk with ourselves and treat ourselves like God sees us, like that baby sees us, that baby is looking at us through the purest eyes, through God's eyes. And that is how God sees us. And we can't even fathom what that's really like. I mean, we can have an idea intellectually, we can experience it in moments, but to truly see ourselves and everyone else the way that God sees us, I can't even, my mind stops if I try to understand it. You can't try to understand that. There's just so much love, and it's beyond words. I feel silly even trying to talk about it because there's no words for it. So this was the last month of my life, was a lot of this, just seeing and experiencing the world through the eyes of a child, through the eyes of God, through the eyes of a baby, and seeing and experiencing myself even more deeply through those eyes, and knowing that I, as a 37-year-old adult, still have just as much innocence and purity and perfection as I did when I was born and before I was born. And every moment between then and now, I am still perfection. And that's how God that's what God knows about me, and that's what God knows about all of you. We are perfect. We are innocent. We are not sinners. We are not sinners. We cannot sin. We are perfect children of God, and we are made of only love. We cannot sin. Yes, we can make mistakes. We can make choices that cause us or others pain, but that doesn't mean we are sinners. That doesn't mean we are going to be hated or unloved or unworthy anymore of God's love or anyone else's love. It doesn't mean we're going to be sent to hell. Hell only exists in our minds. All hell is ego, is our ego telling us lies about ourselves that are not coming from a place of pure love. So we are perfect. That's the only message I have today, that we are perfect. And it's not because I was taught this as a kid. I don't know what I was taught. I was raised Catholic. I know I was taught about sin. I was taught that we are sinners. It wasn't like a fire and brimstone kind of teaching for me. It was more subtle, I think. But I do remember being taught when I was 15, I was in confirmation class, that that homosexuality was a sin, that sexual thoughts in general and sexual thoughts towards same sex, same gender was a sin, that abortion was a sin, and all the other sins that we all know, the 10 Commandments, and coveting another's person's spouse, or, all those things, murder. And this is a really hard thing for people to let go of, because we're taught, even if we're not raised in a church or a religion where we're taught this, we still struggle with these fundamental beliefs that we are bad, that we are unworthy, that we're sinners, that we're bad people. And it's not true. It's not who we are. The only reason we believe that that's true is because we believe it. It's just a belief. It's just a belief. And our beliefs that make us feel bad about ourselves, or bad about others, or judge ourselves, or judge others, or hold grievances, all of those beliefs are not true. They are lies that we are telling ourselves and that we're telling other people. They are all lies. And so I'm continuing to hold patience for myself and others, to hold us all in the light, in the love of knowing who we really are, knowing who we can be more and more each day, knowing that when we make mistakes, when we do things that cause other people harm and that cause ourselves harm, that we can be willing to forgive ourselves, to take responsibility for ourselves and our experience and the meaning we made of that for ourselves and others and for our life, that we can take responsibility for that and forgive ourselves, which ultimately leads to forgiving others. And this is how the world heals. This is how we heal. This is how we have peace on earth. When I was a kid, I used to be obsessed with peace on earth. That was always my wish. That was always my prayer. God, can you give us peace on earth? And it sounds so cliche, and it's interesting because as a kid, I didn't have the awareness from A Course in Miracles perspective that all it takes to have peace on earth is for one person to have peace in their mind. And if every person had peace in their mind, then we would literally have peace on earth. And I think that really starts with looking at, what belief am I having? What thought am I having right now that is not giving me peace about myself, about others? And when I was 15 in confirmation class, some of those things that I was being taught, I knew then. I knew in my heart, in my soul, in my body, that believing in sin and believing in hell and believing that homosexuality was bad and abortion was bad, that did not make me feel good, and that it's not bad. It's all love. To make a loving choice is to make a loving choice, period. And God loves us so much beyond belief, beyond what we can even imagine or experience. And that proves that we're not sinners, that we're not bad. We're so good and we're so perfect and we're so innocent. And it doesn't mean we get to not take responsibility for our actions, or we get to, it doesn't mean that we can go around hurting people or doing things that are hurtful. Of Course in Miracles, we know that we can't hurt people, but that doesn't mean we don't read that lesson. We don't learn that in Course in Miracles and interpret that to mean, well, if I can't hurt anyone, if nobody can hurt me, then I can just go around doing horrible things and it doesn't matter. They're responsible for how they experience that. Well, yeah, but we don't want to intentionally cause harm to others, so that that is how we experience it in the illusion. We can't just bypass it and say, well, that person didn't abuse me as a kid. I'm a spiritual being and I can't be hurt or abused. It's all an illusion, so I shouldn't feel hurt by it. No, you're gonna feel hurt by it. That's part of the healing process, to have the human experience first, and then sit with those emotions in our mind and in our body and feel those emotions, really truly feel them and sit with them and honor them and say, I'm willing to feel this pain. I'm willing to feel this abandonment. I'm willing to feel this rejection, this grief. And I'm willing to accept it as my experience. And I'm willing to see now that it is not serving me. And so when I'm ready, I'm willing to let it go. I'm willing to ask God to help me remove the blocks from seeing this situation differently. And so then I'm willing to see this differently. This is not serving me. I am feeling hurt by making this meaning out of it. So this must not be how God sees it. Am I willing to see this situation how God sees it? Am I willing to offer up my attachments to how I have been seeing this? Above all else, I want to see. I want to see. So earlier, before all the technology challenges, I had opened up the book to read. And so it's still open on that page. So I think I'll read that. I opened to chapter 18, The Passing of the Dream. Section 2, The Basis of the Dream. Does not a world that seems quite real arise in dreams? Yet think what this world is. It is clearly not the world you saw before you slept. Rather, it is a distortion of the world planned solely around what you would have preferred. Here you are free to make over whatever seemed to attack you and change it into a tribute to your ego, which was outraged by the attack. This would not be your wish unless you saw yourself as one with the ego, which always looks upon itself and therefore on you as under attack and highly vulnerable to it. Dreams are chaotic because they're governed by your conflicting wishes, and therefore they have no concern with what is true. They are the best example you could have of how perception can be utilized to substitute illusions for truth. You do not take them seriously on awaking because the fact that reality is so outrageously violated in them becomes apparent. Yet they are a way of looking at the world and changing it to suit the ego better. They provide striking examples both of the ego's inability to tolerate reality and of your willingness to change reality on its behalf. Yeah, that's interesting. They provide striking examples both of the ego's inability to tolerate reality and of your willingness to change reality on its behalf. It's like the ego is so attached to our reality, this illusion and all this bad stuff, yet it can't tolerate it, which is a really interesting dichotomy to think about. It's like it believes in all this bad stuff happening and all this pain, yet it can't tolerate it, really. It just causes it more pain and then gives us more pain. So it's pretty interesting. Like, obviously the ego must be totally deluded to, it must be, it's not thinking clearly because it doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And it's trying to make sense out of a world that's not real and that makes no sense. And then it's just causing us to feel bad. So yeah, that's not what I want to believe in. That's not what I want. So do I want to be right? Do I want to listen to my ego trying to convince me this is all correct? Or do I want to be happy? So I choose happiness. I choose to be willing to be happy. It doesn't mean it's easy. It's not easy for me. Sometimes to choose it, to be willing to let go of my attachments to people, places, outcomes, things that I think that I want in my life. We don't know what's going to make us happy. We have no idea. We have no idea. And it's pretty hilarious actually to think about how much we think we have an idea about what's going to make us happy. I mean, I could run through a list of 25 things that I think is going to make me happy, that I think is currently making me happy or is going to make me happy in my future. And I don't know. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea what's going to make me happy. Why? Because none of those things are actually going to be what makes me happy. It's going to be me, myself, and I truly feeling happy with myself, no matter what is happening around me, no matter what I have or don't have. I get to be happy regardless, and it has nothing to do with my outward life. Those things help us feel comfortable, yeah, but even comfort is something that really can only come from within. Can only come from within. So this is a good reminder for me today because I've been caught up in wanting a lot of connection with people lately, a lot of physical proximity, physical connection, intimate conversations, like, a lot of socializing. And it's been wonderful. And I've had a wonderful time doing it, and I will continue doing it more this winter, because a lot of last winter I spent in a lot of solitude doing a lot of inner work, and that really, really needed to happen. And it's a good reminder for me right now to be speaking about this ability to be happy within ourselves, no matter what, when alone, when with others, when we have things we don't want, when we don't have things that we want, that we think we want. Can we be happy anyway? And I have learned this from very direct, difficult experience. I used to be terrified of being alone. I used to be chronically ill. I just recently had a 4-year anniversary of healing from a chronic illness, from toxic black mold. And yeah, I'm about to have another anniversary date of healing from one of my first earlier illnesses. When I got really severely ill from food poisoning, caused me a lot of trauma. All these things caused me to enter into a state in my life for years where I was terrified of being alone. I was terrified of being sick again. I was terrified of living. Basically, I was terrified of life, period. And I'm not anymore because I've done the inner work to realize that I have everything I need in here, inside, to keep me safe. My body knows how to do it. My body knows how to keep me safe. God is keeping me safe if I'm willing to trust that. And whenever I'm willing to trust it, I feel so much safer. And that's why I feel so safe and so happy when I'm alone now, when I'm by myself, when I don't feel good physically. I still struggle with that, but I have so much more of a trust and an ability to regulate my body because I'm trusting God. I'm not trusting, something to help me make me feel better, like a substance or medication. Yeah, those things help us with human bodies, we can't just bypass that and pretend we're just totally spiritual beings, not in human bodies. We absolutely do need those things in the human body sense, because our belief is that we need those things. So if we have a belief, consciously or subconsciously, that we need those things, we need those things. But along with that support, we are spiritual beings. We are of God. We are God's love. And so that's all we truly need to heal and to trust that we are perfect. We are healthy and whole and healed and beings of radiant abundance and peace and joy already. We are perfect. I'm reminded of Anita Moorjani's wonderful book, Dying to Be Me. It's about her experience, how she had her whole life intense fear of having cancer and getting cancer. And she developed cancer all over her body, terminal cancer. She basically died in the hospital. She was deathly ill and she died in the hospital, and she came out of her body, and in her near-death experience, she woke up and she saw that the cancer didn't exist. She saw that she was perfect. She heard the doctors talking about her. She had such a profound experience of experiencing that oneness and that knowing and that being that she is, and that her fear was the only thing causing that belief that she was ill, and it caused her body to die. And when she came back into her body and she woke up and she basically came back to life, and it was a miracle, and the doctors couldn't explain it. And then over time, her tumors got smaller, and the doctors were just, I just get chills remembering it. The doctors were just so shocked by the miraculous recovery. And she even had to, she talks about how she had to pretend, she had to make the healing process that showed up in the test results and the blood work and the x-rays and CAT scans and stuff. She had to make that go slower so that people would believe it more, so it seemed more believable and less just a spontaneous miracle that nobody would be able to wrap their heads around. And I thought that part was really interesting when she talked about that part of the experience too, where she had to meet those humans in between her spiritual knowingness and the humans in charge of her care and healing and recovery and her own family, so that they could buy into it. And and she made a full recovery, and she speaks about the experience now. And I just think that's so miraculous, especially the part about how she had to really do it slowly. And it was still really fast. It was still a miraculous recovery. But I just love that part, because we're only ready when we're ready. We have to be ready. And for some of us, it takes the tiniest of baby steps to really start seeing and believing and experiencing those miracles. It takes baby steps. I mean, with my history of anxiety that I had, I know about baby steps more than anyone. I had to expose myself to what I was scared of in such tiny ways. Other people that didn't experience fears of illness and the fears that I had would think it was so insignificant. But that's the way that I had to do it. And that's what it looks like for many of us. And so we have to take off little bite-sized pieces that we can chew and digest so that we can really wake up more fully. And then those steps can start feeling bigger. And a baby step is not actually a tiny, insignificant thing. A baby step is enormous. If you think you're just making little tiny, I always tell my clients, make little little goals that you think are super tiny, and maybe you think they're insignificant, but a tiny goal that you think that you can achieve and that's realistic for you to achieve is where we want to start, because we have to set ourselves up for feeling successful, for feeling worthy, for feeling like, yeah, I got this. And so we start with a baby step. And if you think about what a baby step is, when a baby takes their first step, that's not a little deal. That's a huge deal. This baby that can't walk and can't do anything for itself and is subject to the entire world helping it survive, otherwise it will die. That baby, they take their first step. That's a miracle. That's enormous. So a baby step is huge. So I just want to leave that with everyone. Think about your baby steps that way. Baby steps are huge. And my name is Kel Lash, and my website is manymiraclescoaching.com. You can reach out to me. All my contact info is on there. I'm a spiritual coach. I'm a Course in Miracles mentor and coach and teacher, and I love doing this work. And please reach out to me if you want to connect, if you want to know more about coaching, spiritual coaching. Thank you, Lynn. Yes, manymiraclescoaching.com. So thank you, everyone. Much love to you all today. May you have peace and joy and miracles in your life, and remember that childlike innocence, and see yourself how God sees you. Blessings to all.
Thank you so much, Kel Lash, for being here with us on ACIM Gather for A Course in Miracles. We love you and we appreciate you, and especially your patience with our technology. Many blessings to you, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Lynn.
Bye-bye.
Bye.